The story, The Curse of the Ancient One. In the barren, inhospitable expanse of the Atacama Desert, a team of researchers stumbled upon what would become the greatest and most terrifying discovery of the century. Led by Dr. Elena Marquez, a renowned anthropologist, the team was on an ordinary expedition, searching for relics of a long-lost civilization that had once thrived in the harsh desert landscape. As they delved deeper into the desert, far from any known historical site, their instruments began to pick up strange signals, as if something beneath the sands was trying to communicate. Intrigued and unnerved, they decided to investigate further, unearthing what appeared to be the entrance to a hidden burial chamber. The entrance was sealed with a massive stone slab, covered in strange, indecipherable glyphs that glowed faintly in the moonlight. The team, armed with cutting-edge technology and driven by curiosity, managed to open the entrance, revealing a staircase leading deep into the earth. As they descended, the temperature dropped unnaturally, and the air grew thick with an oppressive energy that made their skin crawl. At the bottom of the staircase, they found a massive stone chamber. It was filled with artifacts that defied explanation, objects made from materials that were not of this world, and paintings depicting scenes of otherworldly beings and landscapes that had never been seen on Earth. But what caught their attention the most was a stone sarcophagus in the center of the chamber, unlike any they had ever seen. It was covered in intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and as they approached, they felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Despite the warnings of some team members, Dr. Marquez decided to open the sarcophagus, believing that it could hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of the ancient civilization they were studying. As the lid was slowly lifted, a gust of freezing air escaped from within, extinguishing their torches and plunging the chamber into darkness. When they relit their torches, they saw it, a mummified figure, small and fragile, with skin of an ashen gray hue and eyes that were closed tightly shut. The figure was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its features were almost human, but there was something alien, something not of this earth about its appearance. Next to the body was a stone tablet, covered in the same glyphs that had been on the entrance slab. Dr. Marquez, against her better judgment, took the tablet and the mummy back to their base camp, where they could study it in detail. But from the moment they left the chamber, strange things began to happen. The desert around them seemed to come alive with whispers, shadows that moved on their own, and a deep, unnatural cold that clung to them even in the heat of the day. As they began to study the tablet, they discovered that the glyphs were not just a language, they were a warning. The tablet told the story of an ancient being, a powerful entity that had once ruled over this world before humankind ever walked the earth. This being had been worshipped as a god, but its followers had turned against it, trapping it within a mortal form and sealing it away in the chamber to prevent it from ever rising again. The tablet described the entity as a bringer of death, a force of unimaginable power that could not be killed, only contained. And now, by opening the sarcophagus, they had released its essence back into the world. The members of the team began to experience terrifying visions, nightmares of a world consumed by darkness, of a being that fed on the fear and despair of those around it. One by one, they started to lose their sanity. Some began to speak in tongues, others withdrew into themselves, refusing to eat or drink, and some simply vanished without a trace. Dr. Marquez, realizing the gravity of their mistake, desperately tried to contain the entity's power. She sought help from historians, occultists, and even scientists specializing in the paranormal. They all came to the same conclusion: the entity could not be stopped by any means they knew of. It was feeding off the fear and chaos it was causing, growing stronger with each passing day. As the entity's power grew, it began to reach out beyond the desert, affecting people across the globe. Natural disasters, unexplained phenomena, and mass hysteria spread like wildfire. The world was beginning to fall apart, and Dr. Marquez knew that it was only a matter of time before the entity fully manifested itself in our reality. In a final desperate attempt to stop the entity, Dr. Marquez and the few surviving members of her team returned to the chamber, hoping to find a way to reseal the sarcophagus and trap the entity once more. But when they arrived, they found the chamber transformed. The walls were now covered in blood-red glyphs that seemed to writhe and pulse with malevolent energy, and the sarcophagus was open, the mummy inside gone. The entity had fully awakened, and it was furious. As the chamber began to collapse around them, Dr. Marquez realized that there was only one way to stop the entity: She would have to take its place. She would have to bind her soul to the sarcophagus, sealing it with her own life force to trap the entity within. With tears in her eyes and a heavy heart, Dr. Marquez began the ritual. The glyphs on the walls flared with light as she chanted the incantation, and the air grew thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. The entity, sensing what she was about to do, manifested itself in the chamber, a towering figure of shadow and flame, its eyes burning with hatred. But Dr. Marquez did not waver. She completed the ritual, and as the last words left her lips, the entity let out a scream that shook the very foundations of the earth. The chamber was engulfed in light, and then all was silent. When the dust settled, the chamber was empty, save for the sarcophagus. The glyphs had faded, and the oppressive energy that had filled the air was gone. The entity had been trapped once more, but at the cost of Dr. Marquez's life. The surviving team members, broken and exhausted, left the chamber for the last time, sealing the entrance behind them. They made a pact to never speak of what had happened, to let the entity and Dr. Marquez's sacrifice remain a secret buried in the sands of the Atacama. But some secrets cannot stay buried forever. The world began to heal, the strange phenomena ceased, and life returned to normal. But there were those who remembered the stories, who whispered of a hidden chamber in the desert, where an ancient evil lay waiting for the day it would be released once more. And deep beneath the sands, in the silence of the stone chamber, the sarcophagus waited, its occupant bound in eternal slumber, guarding the world against a force that could never truly be destroyed. In the blistering heat of the Atacama Desert, under a sky that seemed to stretch on endlessly, a team of elite archaeologists embarked on what they believed would be a routine excavation. Dr. Elena Marquez, the leader of the expedition, was a seasoned anthropologist with a reputation for uncovering lost civilizations. However, this time, something about the expedition felt different, ominous even. The air was thick with a strange energy, and the locals had warned them to stay away from the area, calling it El Cementerio de los Dioses, the cemetery of the gods. Driven by curiosity and the promise of uncovering an untouched archaeological site, Dr. Marquez and her team pressed on, ignoring the warnings. They set up camp near a series of ancient stone pillars jutting out from the sand, their surfaces covered in what appeared to be undecipherable glyphs. The desert wind howled through the pillars, producing an eerie sound that seemed to echo from deep within the earth. As they began their work, strange occurrences began to plague the camp. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation, and the team's communication devices picked up static-laden whispers that no one could understand. Some team members reported seeing shadows moving just beyond the light of their campfires, but when they investigated, they found nothing. Dr. Marquez dismissed these incidents as nerves and overactive imaginations, focusing instead on the excavation. After days of digging, they unearthed a massive stone slab, buried deep beneath the sand. The slab was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its surface was covered in glyphs similar to those on the pillars, but these seemed to pulse faintly with a strange, otherworldly light. With great effort, the team managed to lift the slab, revealing a staircase that descended into the darkness below. The air that rushed up from the depths was icy cold, a stark contrast to the desert heat above. Undeterred, Dr. Marquez led her team down the staircase, their flashlights cutting through the thick, suffocating darkness. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a vast underground chamber. The walls were lined with carvings depicting scenes of what appeared to be a great battle between humans and monstrous beings that defied description. Creatures with elongated limbs, sharp claws, and eyes that glowed with malevolence. In the center of the chamber stood a colossal stone sarcophagus, its surface adorned with more of the glowing glyphs. As they approached the sarcophagus, a deep sense of unease settled over the team. Some suggested they should leave, but Dr. Marquez was determined to uncover the secrets hidden within. She instructed her team to open the sarcophagus, despite their growing fear. The lid of the sarcophagus was heavy and took several men to move. As it slid open, a gust of freezing air escaped, extinguishing their lights and plunging the chamber into darkness. When they managed to relight their torches, they saw it. A mummified figure, curled in a fetal position, its skin a sickly gray and its eyes tightly shut. Unlike any human remains they had ever encountered, the figure's features were distorted, almost alien in appearance. Alongside the mummy was a set of stone tablets, covered in the same glowing glyphs. Dr. Marquez carefully lifted the tablets, her hands trembling with anticipation. As she examined them, she realized that they told a story of an ancient race that had once ruled over the earth, a race that had been worshipped as gods by the early humans. According to the tablets, these beings possessed powers beyond human comprehension, but they were not benevolent. They fed on fear and despair, driving entire civilizations to madness before devouring them. The tablets described how the early humans had rebelled against these beings, sealing their leaders in stone sarcophagi and burying them deep within the earth to prevent them from ever rising again. As Dr. Marquez read the final lines of the tablets, a chill ran down her spine. The glyphs warned that disturbing the tombs would awaken the Ancient Ones, releasing their wrath upon the world once more. Suddenly, the chamber began to shake violently, as if the earth itself was rebelling against their presence. The team scrambled to leave, but the staircase they had descended had collapsed, trapping them in the chamber. Panic set in as they realized they were not alone. The shadows on the walls began to move, forming into twisted, nightmarish shapes. The mummified figure in the sarcophagus began to stir, its eyes slowly opening to reveal empty, black voids. A low, guttural sound filled the chamber, reverberating through the very stones. The Ancient One was awakening. Desperate to escape, the team tried to find another way out, but the chamber seemed to stretch on endlessly, the walls closing in around them. One by one, they were picked off by the shadows, their screams echoing in the darkness. Dr. Marquez, clutching the tablets, was the last to remain. As the Ancient One fully awakened, it began to speak in a language that Dr. Marquez couldn't understand, but its meaning was clear. She had unleashed something far beyond her control. The Ancient One reached out with its mind, invading her thoughts, filling her with visions of a world consumed by darkness and despair. In a last-ditch effort to stop the Ancient One, Dr. Marquez used the knowledge from the tablets to attempt a binding ritual, hoping to seal the creature back within the sarcophagus. But as she chanted the incantation, the shadows closed in around her, whispering words of doom and madness in her ears. Just as she completed the ritual, the chamber exploded with light, and everything went silent. When Dr. Marquez opened her eyes, she found herself alone in the chamber. The sarcophagus was sealed once more, and the shadows had vanished. She made her way back to the surface, where she was found days later by a rescue team. They reported that the site had been destroyed by what appeared to be a massive earthquake, but there were no signs of the rest of her team. Dr. Marquez was hailed as a survivor, but she knew the truth. The Ancient One was not defeated, it was merely contained, waiting for the day when it could rise again. She spent the rest of her life trying to warn others, but no one would listen. And so she kept the tablets, the only evidence of what she had seen, hidden away, hoping that no one would ever find them. But deep beneath the sands of the Atacama Desert, the whispers of the Ancient Ones continued, growing louder with each passing day, as they awaited the moment when they would once again be free to wreak havoc upon the world.